we go to Suzhou, China to learn more about the first non-governmental organization in the country. Tzu Chi volunteers visit care recipients and those affected by last year's plane crash in Penghu, Taiwan prior to the arrival of Lunar New Year. Welcome to DaAi Headlines. I'm Helen Liao. Thank you for joining us. We kick off the show in the Philippines as Tzu Chi finishes up its second batch of prefab homes in Palu. 144 families are getting ready to move in and begin a new chapter in their lives.
Proud new owners of a prefab, Jojo and his wife Maria, have been essentially homeless since Typhoon Haiyan struck over a year ago, living in shelters or under a friend's roofs.
We're so happy that our whole family finally has a home to be together in.
The couple has been married 10 years and said today is one of the happiest days in their marriage. Actually, Jojo, being part of a Cash for Work program, helped put together this prefab and others like it. With the money he earned, the couple has plans to open up a barbershop.
Tzu Chi has already changed our lives. Following the Cash for Work program, we no longer drink or smoke.
Altogether, 144 families will be moving into this round of prefab housing. Accompanying the happy new owners during the opening ceremony was Tzu Chi volunteer Pan Xingchen, who has been part of the building process for the past 6 months.
Some of the Cash for Work participants suddenly came up to me and started to talk to me in the local language. Only when they finished did they realize I didn't understand a word they had said, and everyone had a big laugh. It was then that I really felt like I had become a part of their family.
Thanks to time, effort, energy the volunteers have been selflessly offering, they have come to be seen as family here at this new prefab community in Palu. As residents do their best to give back to their new Tzu Chi family by bringing their bamboo coin bags home.
Suzhou is a major city in China, was once a major commerce center of the country due to its fertile land and rivers, known as Venice at the east. The city's elegant historical homes and pavilions have attracted tourists worldwide, but few actually know that Suzhou was also the birthplace of the first non-governmental charity in China more than 1,000 years ago.
Suzhou, China has been known as heaven on earth since the old days. The city's well-preserved historical buildings and pavilions are world famous, but the city has another hidden claim to fame.
At the time, he was an official in Hangzhou, and one night he dreamt that his brethren were living a hard life. When he woke up, he decided to do something by changing his ancestral home of Lingzhifang into a yizhuang, which works like a shelter. So he was one of the pioneers of charity work in China.
Fan Zongying was a prominent politician, author, military strategist, and educator in the Song dynasty. In 1034, he formed a charity hoping to benefit the Fan tribe. That shelter has now become Jinfan Middle School. History shows that the Fan Shelter was the first non-governmental charity organization in China. Tribal members will elect a person to run the charity, much like NGOs nowadays. The charity survived and grew for more than 800 years.
The whole idea of yizhuang, pioneered by Fan Zhongyan, greatly impacted this part of China. His spirit of boundless universal love has been passed down from one generation to the next.
The most famous verse from Fan's most famous piece, 岳阳楼记, is bear hardship and bitterness before others, enjoy comfort and happiness after others. Less than 1,500 meters from the school, now sits Tzu Chi Suzhou grounds. Here, the NGO from Taiwan has been realizing that same spirit of selflessness since 1991.
不难好。No.
Nowadays, the idea of Yizhuang is no longer restricted to one specific region or one specific tribe, as Tzu Chi volunteers deliver love to all forgotten corners.
爷爷，我永远祝福你。爷爷，我永远祝福你，祝福你健康，祝福你快乐。爷爷，我永远祝福你。收到了吗？
听到了。
The spirit of compassion and selflessness passed down by Fan Zhongyan has been inherited by Tzu Chi volunteers today, who continue to alleviate suffering with love.
Over the past few years, Anshan City, Guizhou Province, China, has seen a significant increase in economic prosperity. However, as more people pursue for a more modern way of life, tradition and culture are slowly being forgotten. Luckily, there are still groups of people who are trying their best to preserve the city's rich history. Traveling through the ancient village of Tunbao Anshan, one can almost feel that time has stopped here, as the locals still practice customs that can be traced back 600 years.
One of the distinguishing features of the Tunbao culture are its stone houses. The houses keep us cool in the summer and warm in the winter.
Inside this pitch-dark house, only a small amount of light shines through the small hole. According to locals, it is called a cat window because only cat can pass through it.
The shape of the house is designed for optimum access to sunlight and protection. Normally, people will build a stove here too.
In fact, Tunbao was built by troops sent by the Ming Emperor Zhu Yuanzhang, who ordered them to station there.
When our ancestors first came here, this piece of land was covered by forests. The stone they used was also collected from around here. These buildings are 600 years old. Look, the wood here can be peeled off easily.
Besides stone walls, wooden beams, and cat windows, each house is also equipped with a granary.
装稻谷啊、玉米啊，
就是粮仓嘛。
粮仓。
我昨日听见你又来给妈你打手势啊，自给耶。
第二个 TC 它就是。
The second specialty of the Tunbao culture are its Ming-style clothing.
Outside of Mr. Chen's home, his wife is making embroidered shoes. Inside their house hang many Ming-style dresses and Mr. Chen's most treasured objects.
The beard of these two masks were made from human hair. A nonagenarian donated her hair to us, so we signed her name on the back of the masks.
Chen Xianwu is the 14th generation heir to DaAi, a traditional form drama in which its masked players sing about stories of war.
DaAi is very different from Beijing opera because it doesn't have music to go along with the lyrics. We can only pass down DaAi to the generations to come by word of mouth. DaAi represents the spirit of the Tunbao people, and I think it is something that all of us should learn. We will lose our roots if we don't pass it on to our next generation.
Another tradition that needs to be preserved is wax printing.
The wax printing technique can be seen in 80% of the clothes made by ethnic groups in Guizhou.
Wax printing is a special Chinese handicraft which is widely used in clothing. Each ethnic group prints different patterns to represent their cultures.
Society is changing rapidly. 20 years ago, people from ethnic groups always wore their traditional clothes. But now, people don't wear them that often anymore.
By establishing a wax printing museum, Hong Fuyuan hopes this special Chinese handicraft can be preserved, cherished, and passed on to generations to come. Tzu Chi volunteers in Vietnam visit their care recipients on a monthly basis. As Chinese New Year is just around the corner, on this most recent visit, volunteers brought gifts and their blessings to help care recipients better enjoy the holidays.
Every month here in Ho Chi Minh City, Tzu Chi volunteers will drive out to see their care recipients. This month's visit is particularly important as it falls ahead of Chinese New Year, and thus volunteers have some extra gifts in store for everyone, including this 13-year-old girl.
I want to thank my father and mother. Helping others is like helping myself.
Volunteers drive the small streets and alleys, bringing their blessings and care to countless residents in need.
Tzu Chi helped pay for my medical bills from when I was 36 till I was 42. During that time, Tzu Chi never gave up on me.
While this care recipient lost one leg, and when he feels okay, drives a pedicab selling lottery tickets.
During Chinese New Year, he goes home, and after comes back here. His family is from down south. He rides on his pedicab and sells lottery tickets.
Although the volunteers from Taiwan don't speak the local language, their actions speak volumes, and everyone comes together as one family.
The bottles we were using before have really gone up in price. Now, after 3 or 4 uses, they are finished.
Volunteers listen to the hardship of others as they learn to treasure their own blessings, while some care recipients decided to become givers themselves. These monthly visits by the volunteers are helping spread a culture of care and giving to every forgotten corner here in Ho Chi Minh City.
At the end of last year, the east coast of Malaysia faced the worst flooding the area had seen in 30 years. Conducting disaster surveys in the days following, Tzu Chi volunteers found that many residents were left homeless and penniless. Since then, it has been Tzu Chi's love and care that has helped these families climb back from the brink and poverty of despair.
When the flood waters finally receded in Kelantan, mud covered every inch of Noriza's home and all her family's belongings within. Strong winds had also left the house leaning at a precarious angle.
This house is the only thing I own in this world. I feel so sad and helpless now.
After getting divorced, Noriza took herself and her children to live with her mother. Her unhappy marriage was also shared by her sister.
The first 2 years of marriage, everything was wonderful. By the 3rd year, he started to beat me and refused to work and instead asked me for money.
Seeing the problems faced by Noriza and her family, neighbors called on Tzu Chi to help.
We don't have electricity or running water. We use candles. When we were sleeping, if we are not careful, the children might knock over the candles and cause a fire. It is a constant worry.
Visiting in the morning before returning that same evening, the volunteers bring with them timely aid that has the family in tears of disbelief and gratitude. Wherever volunteers go, they bring happiness in their wake, and the home of Rohania was no exception. Living far away from any city centre, Rohania never expected to see any help in the wake of the floods. Instead, there to help were the Tzu Chi volunteers, who not only brought much needed aid, but helped bring Rohania's wayward son back into the family fold.
I've seen how you help these people, and there are plenty of Malays that really need the hope that you are bringing them.
In forgotten corners, Tzu Chi's love and care is often the only thing that stands between despair and hope.
Diallo Al-Hassan Salio, a Muslim student from Guinea, Africa, was given a scholarship to study in Malaysia 3 years ago. Later, he was diagnosed with kidney problems and was unable to continue his education. Thankfully, with the assistance of the Tzu Chi Kuala Lumpur and Selangor chapter, Diallo was able to undergo dialysis treatment.
I have the very good pleasure write this thank you letter to Tzu Chi Foundation Malaysia for the wonderful medical support they provided to me since February 2012. I'm leaving Malaysia soon with a very, very good satisfaction.
A thank you letter from Diallo of Guinea, Africa is filled with gratitude for the assistance Tzu Chi volunteers have extended to him over the last 3 years.
May God bless you. May God help you. May God bless you. May God help you.
Diallo Elsahan Celio was in Malaysia to pursue a master's degree, but 3 months later, after he arrived, he discovered he had kidney problems.
He suffered until he told me, because we are very close. And then I remember that word. I will never forget it. He said, "I'm ready to die." And then the help from someone we don't know. You are Malaysian, even Chinese, and then we came from Africa.
After receiving dialysis, Diallo was able to complete his education. Before he traveled to France for more schooling, he invited his friend to attend to the year-end blessing ceremony. They donated their savings to reciprocate. The Tzu Chi coin bank has become a valued personal item and will travel with him to France.
I can keep it for souvenir and to continue saving money, put in every day maybe 10 cent euro or something. I can do it.
Even in France, Diallo will still need to undergo dialysis. The Tzu Chi volunteer also gave him some emergency fund filled with their blessings to help get him started.
With our blessings and Allah's blessings, may he be safe at all times and overcome all obstacles in his way.
Jado, you are not alone. There's always a lot of people beside you. Don't be afraid. Just go all the way out to achieve, your dream.
Pursuing his dream in spite of his illness, Diallo is marching towards the future surrounded by love.
Before every Chinese New Year, Tzu Chi volunteers on the offshore island of Penghu make sure to check on their care recipients. In Xixi village, many residents were still trying to come to terms with the plane crash last July when news of another plane crash broke out. The volunteers' presence, however, helped residents calm their rattled hearts.
In Xixi village of Penghu, scars left by the Transasia Airways crash last July still remain. Upon hearing news of another Transasia Airways plane crash, residents are reminded once again of that awful night.
There was just this feeling of heaviness that suddenly rushed up out of nowhere. So for Tzu Chi volunteers to come at this time to check on us, I'm truly touched and grateful.
Before Chinese New Year arrives, volunteers are checking on the residents and families who lost loved ones in the July crash. Ms. Xu's blood pressure has spiked because of the news.
心情很激动。没有激动，慢受气了哈。
Volunteers help calm Ms. Xu down and help her try to look beyond her sorrow. After regaining her composure, Ms. Xu makes a donation as usual. Team member Dr. Cai Shenghe and his wife have been joining in the home visitations since his retirement. He now realizes the need for psychotherapy services here.
很多人是需要被关怀。
A lot of people need looking after. Medical resources are truly less accessible here.
Volunteers have been worried about this 84-year-old grandma who didn't show up for the New Year banquet. Hearing the senior speaking just fine as they deliver winter relief supplies, volunteers can now rest easy. A house warmed up by laughter. It seems spring isn't far away.
Tzu Chi volunteers in the United States recently held a year-end blessing ceremony in San Jose, California. At the event, Li Shujuan, a teacher at the Tzu Chi Academy, was invited to share her story. As currently her stage 3 esophageal cancer is in remission, Li promised to devote herself wholeheartedly to Tzu Chi's missions.
Li Shujuan overcomes her shyness by wearing a wool hat.
I was afraid to appear before the public like this, but I want to share my story and let everyone know just how precious life is.
Seeing Li Shujuan once again, many students and parents could no longer hide their emotions.
6 months that we have been able to see her because she was always afraid to have her son around her for chemotherapy, for radiation. And, my thought was she only has about a year to live, and I wanted my son to spend as much time as he had with her. And so finding out that she is in remission and free of her cancer today, I'm just so grateful, because I don't know what I would do if I didn't have a chance to have my son grow up with her in his life, because she's just such a loving person.
In summer of 2014, Li Shujuan was diagnosed with stage 3 esophageal cancer. She decided to entrust her health to her doctor and her heart to the Buddha.
I often explain to my family it hurts so much, just like rubbing salt into my wound while swallowing food. At that moment, I began praying and reciting with utmost sincerity. As my family was attending a breakfast distribution at the time, I made a wish. If I could recover, I will never want to spend another moment of my time lying in bed. I would practice recycling with them or join the breakfast distributions.
At the year-end blessing ceremony in San Jose, the story of Li Shujuan inspired participants to also seize the opportunity to practice good deeds.
Living in Caotun Town, Nantuen County, Taiwan, is Senior Ling, who has trouble with both his legs and therefore finds it difficult to clean where and when necessary. Fortunately, Tzu Chi has been there to help.
Volunteers pull pile after pile of garbage from the home, and items that can be saved are carefully washed down. Mr. Ling is 76 this year. Living alone, he has suffered from polio since he was a boy. Today, Tzu Chi volunteers are here to help him clean up his home and renovate his bathroom ahead of the holidays.
He first heats up the water on the gas stove and then brings it here. That's really inconvenient. Once when he was feeling off, he fell and passed out.
Leading the reconstruction team is experienced carpenter Li Yantu, who took time out of his busy schedule to be here.
最近是真无用，拨时间出来做啦。嘛是要做，嘛是做啊，做就对啊啦。当师傅讲做就对啊啦。简单喏。
The brothers and sisters are so full of love. I'm so happy they're willing to help me.
Among Ling's benefactors are not only the Tzu Chi volunteers, but his neighbors, one of whom brings him dinner every evening.
We help each other. He is a good person.
With love from organizations like Tzu Chi, solitary seniors like Mr. Ling are no longer alone during the holiday season.
We stay in Taiwan at the end of the show, where staff members of Tzu Chi hospitals in Hualien, Yuli, and Guanshan traveled to the Jingse boat to greet Master Zheng Yan prior to the arrival of the Lunar New Year. During their visit, medical personnel also vowed to further shoulder Tzu Chi's medical mission. We'll leave you with these images. Thank you for watching DaAi Headlines. Goodbye.